What's going on, H-Town? Houston Rockets fans all over the world, whether you're here in Houston or whether you're in Turkey. Thanks so much for watching Rockets Daily, brought to you by Fan Arch. Gonna have a little bit of fun today. Gonna answer one of our most loyal viewers sent me a message. Want to go ahead and talk about it. We're going to talk about the greatest what if, really not just in Rockets history, potentially NBA history. That's what we're going to do on our Rockets history segment. And then we're also going to have a little fun as well. Football season going on, but training camp now less than less than 11 days away. So let's get into Rockets Daily, brought to you by Fan Arch. And first of all, if you would go ahead and subscribe to this channel, help us grow, we definitely will appreciate it. And feel free to leave any comments, good, the bad, and the in between. And I hear you guys. I would love to get some guests on here and do some interviews in the future, hopefully. That would be excellent. I love doing this, but it would be nice and also make it easier for me to let someone else on here talk a little bit. But I do enjoy doing this. So first of all, we're going to have a little fun with a very, very purely hypothetical situation. It's just thinking of some different things as we're in the off season. And I'm not going to go on too long about this, but just something fun to chime in the comments. I'm not going to say which Rocket you at least want to fight, right? No one wants to. You know, a lot of guys, we got some really strong men and women, wide viewers. So, but if you were getting into a fight, right? If you were going to get jumped or someone was trying to jump you, right? Which Rocket would you want to have your back? If you could pick one to have your back in a street fight, we're talking back alley, not organized, right? Who would you most like to have your back? And I think a few that come to mind for me, obviously number one, with any fight in the NBA, beyond the Rockets, is going to be Steven Adams. Just super massive, man who, nice guy too. You got to watch out for those nice guys, especially when they're that strong and athletic. Amin Thompson, another nice guy, young guy, but got that old man energy in all the ways that would be good if you've got somebody who has your back in a fight. Tari Eason, someone to think about, and give some love to Jay Sean Tate. Think he'd be someone there too. Those short guys. I hate to say short, but Fred VanVleet could be someone to also think about. So we're not going to go on too long about that, but go ahead and chime in as far as which Rockets you would want to have your back in a street fight, and also someone in the NBA, somebody on this team is going to be a future head coach one day, just a matter who that'll be. So I wonder, out of this current Rocket squad, who's going to be the most successful as a head coach one day. You look at the glory years, obviously Kenny Smith, just a phenomenal Hall of Fame broadcasting, TV career. Sam Cassell, I've talked about before, and that's another thing too. I know it's not really necessarily one of the hottest trending topics to talk about, but and I'd almost really want to talk to some people about that with Sam Cassell, and I mean this with all sincerity, as far as why he hasn't got a head coaching opportunity yet, despite being a very well-respected assistant who's had a lot of success there. So, when I look at this current team, though, as far as who do I, and I'm not going to talk about the assistants, obviously, who some assistants who will probably move into that role at some point. But as far as guys who I can see as future coaches, obviously Fred VanVleet, somebody that comes to mind, along with I wonder if Jeff Green, as far as is that a role that he'd want to take. I mean, he's really not an assistant in a lot of ways now. But I'm going to talk about let's just talk about head coach, because all of these guys could be assistants at some point. But I'm going to say Fred VanVleet would be my vote, along with Aaron Holiday. When you look at having two brothers who won, two who played in the NBA, one that's still very high level player in the NBA. So knows what it takes as far as coming from that household with NBA players. But those would be my top two choices. Obviously, obviously point guards in that situation. Now, one thing that I do want to go ahead and get into. So, Dr. Steven, now in Utah, but H-Town fan just living there now. Dr. Steven, thanks so much for your comment. And he actually left me a message with the down season right now for the Rockets as we've been going through the history. I love diving into the history, and this is a scenario that I didn't know about. Wonder how many of you guys knew about this beforehand. And this is going to be before the 1984 draft. This is when Hakeem Olajuwon was selected number one. Michael Jordan went number three. Sam Bowie went number two. But then before the draft, Portland offered Clyde Drexler in the number two pick to Houston for the promising young player Ralph Sampson. And Houston declined. They used their first round pick, obviously. Hakeem Olajuwon, one of the best centers of all time. But if Houston had accepted, the Rockets would have had their choice between. So obviously, this is Portland coming to Houston and saying, we will give you Clyde Drexler and the number two pick in exchange for Ralph Sampson. So Houston would have number one and number two and Clyde Drexler. So the Rockets went on to select Hakeem Olajuwon. So you would have had a number one pick, Hakeem Olajuwon. Then you would have had Clyde Drexler on the roster. And then the Rockets would have had the number two pick. Meaning, when you look at that 1984 draft, along with 1996, but we'll talk about 1984 right now, and probably the best draft of all time. 96 was awesome too, but look at Jordan going number three, Hakeem going number one, and also in that draft, basically, Dr. Steven points out that the Rockets would have had a chance to pick Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, or John Stockton. So I want to go ahead and talk about that for a moment. First of all, looking at that 1984 draft, obviously, in hindsight, we know how things turned out. I don't think that John Stockton, and he agreed. I talked to this with Dr. Steven about this. I don't. John Stockton was number 16 that year, and obviously we see the Hall of Fame career he had, but obviously these picks would have been made beforehand, and everybody knows what happens after the fact. I don't think that Stockton would have been the number two pick. Now, trading away Ralph Sampson, do the Rockets take Sam Bowie and still possibly try the Twin Towers thing along with Drexler? I don't think so. I would hope not. No offense to Bowie, but yeah, Jordan going third, Barkley went fifth. Yeah, Sam Perkins number four, Melvin Turpin going six, Alvin Robertson going seven, Lancaster Gordon going eight. So there's a lot of other plays that you don't necessarily make history with. Otis Thorpe went nine, who would end up finding his way to the Rockets eventually and being one of the greatest Rockets of all time. But let's really look at here. If you look at Bowie, Jordan, Sam Perkins, Barkley, I think those are probably the realistic setups. The thing that kind of, I shouldn't say scares me, right? This already happened and really didn't happen. But getting Clyde Drexler, I'm thinking out of all the guys whose career would have went differently for sure. Drexler, a little bit later in the first round the year before, didn't have a Hall of Fame rookie season that necessarily made you realize he was going to be an all-time great. And Rockets also had Rodney McCray at the time, so you wonder if they would have maybe went that route with Bowie. But Sam Perkins, the whole stretch 4, stretch 5 wasn't really as a thing like that the same way. I'm thinking a potential like Michael Jordan or Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley, I know that Moses Malone and Dr. J had a big influence, and he's spoken on this with his career in Philadelphia. But let's just, for the moment, and we hope that the Rockets would have took, Michael Jordan in that case, as far as what would have happened with Olajuwon and Jordan. And you looked at, now granted, the Rockets did go to the NBA Finals and lost, as we talked about, 1986, with Hakeem and Ralph Sampson. So in the short term, didn't look like this team still really had a lot of success. Obviously, Sampson's career, we've talked about Sampson's career a lot. Um, Obviously, cut short due to injuries, and you guys could go back. We've talked about him on like at least 5 to 10 other episodes. But if Jordan and Olajuwon would have got together, and this might be something even to table later when we can really just let this thing cook and go. And I want to know in the comments um, how interested you guys are even in this topic. But it's very fascinating to me. I didn't know about this. You know, when you look at that stretch from the 91, to 90, really to 98, locking up with Jordan with the 6 championships, Olajuwon with the 2. Between Jordan and Olajuwon, 8 championships, 8 years in a row where they were a part of the NBA championship, and then title, not just there, 8-0 between the two of them during that run. Now Olajuwon did get beat in the finals by the Celtics in '86, but man, you wonder with Jordan, it's kind of crazy to say like, could this tandem have won 10 championships? But I mean, Jordan did win 6, Olajuwon won 2. There were less teams in the NBA at that time. I think anything less than 8. Hard to see anything less than 8. I think the real curious thing is as far as what would have happened with Clyde Drexler's career. Would he have turned into the player that he was? I mean, he now obviously being a Houston native, along with high school and college. It would have definitely been a lot of love to see Drexler, but the Rockets passed on him the year before. Obviously, I think Jordan becomes who Jordan was. I don't think that Michael Jordan, his greatness was going to be denied. It would just flourish so much, probably even more, with Olajuwon. It's really scary to say, but who do you think that the Rockets would have took at that time? Tell me who they would have took. We all know it should have been Jordan, but tell me in the comments, who do you think the Rockets would have took at number 2 if you had that pick, knowing that you did pick up Drexler as well? Who would the Rockets have picked number 2? And if they would have picked Jordan, how many championships would it have resulted in? And this is something we may even go into a little bit later. Thank you so much, Dr. Steven, for the comment. This has been Rockets Daily. My name is David Delano. Make sure to go ahead and subscribe, and everybody be safe out there.